Welcome back. We are at the market, second quarter 2019. I'm here with Thad Wong and Mike Golden, co-founders of At Properties, as well as Natasha O'Connor, Vice President of Brokerage Services in our Glenview Northbrook office. And we are here at Superior House, which is a new construction condominium building in River North. We're actually right across the street from the construction site. So we see cranes moving and backhoes moving, and it's pretty exciting to see this building getting built. So first quarter, we talked a little bit about how the market seemed to be getting a little bit of an early start. And then it's almost like a groundhog. Groundhog stuck its head out, took a look around, and decided to go back into its den. And we did see kind of a pretty slow February. And now we're in March. And Natasha, what are you saying? Would you kind of agree with that groundhog analogy?
Yes, I like that. Absolutely. In the middle of January, I would say it really, as it usually does, really got started, but then it didn't sustain itself. So it really just slowed down for a little while. But now it's back and going great.
Why do you think that is?
One thing I did see in that beginning section of the market was properties that had been lingering on the market in 2018, particularly the fourth quarter. Those were the ones that were moving in early January. Now we're seeing new inventory coming, and that's what's moving. So,
Thad, Mike, what are you guys seeing?
Yeah, I'd say the same. I mean, we saw some excitement out of the gate, and then things tapered off. But right now, the conversations are starting and phones are ringing.
Yeah, I mean, we had some strange weather patterns, let's say, in the beginning of the year. So we definitely saw some slowdown from that. But I think in general, there was just a lot of uncertainty in the market, maybe a little bit caused by some of the elections and post-elections in the Chicago area. But it definitely feels better now. Inventory is building and people are really busy. Not
surprisingly, a lot of that activity is reflected in first quarter numbers. So the number of closings was off 9.2%. I mean, that's a big number. Average sales price was down 1.5%. Now, this is quarter to quarter, first quarter of 19 to first quarter 18. Still, the trailing 12-month numbers are a little bit better. Prices are up 2%. Things are still looking good, but it looks like the market is decelerating overall. Mike, would you say that that's the case?
It's hard to tell right now, really. When you take a step back, the first quarter numbers are largely a reflection of the fourth quarter of 2018 because all the activity and the deals that are put together there don't actually close until January, February, and in some cases March. I think the big test is really going to be Q2. The second quarter of 2019 will really reflect what happened in the beginning of the year. And at least anecdotally, we're seeing that people are busy, that there's activity happening, there's multiple offers again. So we're actually feeling good that we're going to have a reasonably strong 19, even though we've gotten what looks to be a little bit of a slow start.
Just from talking to some of our managing brokers, it seems like a big theme is the market finding itself right now. And obviously a lot of that relates to price. And a couple weeks ago, Thad, you sent out a really interesting email to our agents that said, if you're not getting showings, you need to look at price right now. Why is that so important?
It's crucially important because we know from January through Memorial Day, that's when we have the highest peak of buyers in the market and when you're going to achieve the highest sales price. And oftentimes what we see homes do is they chase the market down and they continue to reduce their price, but they're doing it too late. And if you end up addressing your price in June, July, or August, when you have the fewest numbers of buyers in the market, you're going to inevitably sell for less. Leaders on the pricing side that get their homes sold quickly during the period where there's the most buyers ultimately sell for the greatest amount of money. Sometimes it's ironic because people feel like the longer they will hold out, the more money they'll get. Actually, the inverse is true. If you price your home properly from the get-go, generate some significant interest and fear of missing out, oftentimes you yield a much higher sales price than if you were to price it too high, where people are not giving it a second look or not coming to see it for the first time at all.
Interest rates is another big storyline right now. In March, we did see 30-year mortgage rates dip below 4%, which I think was a surprise to everybody. Mike, I had asked you last time, do 5% rates present a potential drag on the market? You didn't think so. I would have to imagine that 3% rates present a really strong opportunity.
Well, lower interest rates always present a great opportunity. When you think about it, it just decreases the cost of ownership over the long haul. A 5 to 4% rate drop could be a 10% change in your monthly payment. It's a significant savings and allows you to either afford more or save more money. So without a doubt, it's an opportunity. There's a bit of a mixed message there, though, because Obviously, if the interest rates are coming down, there are some doubts and concerns about the kind of macro economy, and that's going to give people some pause anyway. So I'd say it's a mixed message, but overall, it's a great opportunity to lock in at a low rate and get a long-term bonus basically for buying now.
So that's the macro market. Let's talk a little bit about the neighborhoods and what's happening on more of a local level. And we're here in River North. River North is an interesting situation. It's a neighborhood that seems to really be going up and down based on new construction activity. This is kind of what we're seeing, I think, in some of the more established north side neighborhoods in Chicago, where you see price growth as a result of more of the new construction activity. Would you agree, Mike?
I would definitely agree with you. I think that the markets have been kind of flat-ish the last couple of years. We haven't seen a lot of price growth, but we haven't seen price deceleration either in a lot of the resale product. But the new construction marketplace has definitely taken things up a level. And most of that is really driven by the fact that it is just so much more expensive to build. You have to be able to hit higher prices in order to even warrant trying to build new construction. So neighborhoods like River North, who've had some really cool, really interesting projects get done, you definitely see a change in the average price per square foot that's sold when you factor the new construction in the marketplace.
Yeah, this is an interesting stat. Average price per square foot for all condominiums in River North is $420 a foot, $421. Average price per square foot for the new development, new construction projects that are currently marketing is about $785 a foot. So you see that big difference. And developers, I think, need to up the game a little bit to account for that difference. One of the ways that they're doing it is design. And that's kind of an interesting trend. I mean, we're in the sales center. The developer partnered with Gary Lee, which is one of the hottest designers in the city right now. It used to be that you would really promote the architect on a building. Now it seems like interior designers and architects are sharing top billing on the marquee. Thad, why is that becoming important?
Well, I think pricing has gotten very high with the cost of land, the cost of construction, the affordable requirements. You see new construction is starting to achieve, as you said, almost $800, and it's an average in River North. When you start getting to those prices, details really matter. When buyers are thinking about spending $800 per square foot on new construction, they care. They care about the small details inside their home. They're willing to spend the money, they're willing to pay those numbers, but they want design. And a high-end interior designer with a great reputation, we are seeing accelerate sales for new construction because buyers now have more confidence, not just in the general contractor and the developer, but also the interior finishes, the lobby, the hallway, and what ends up being their home.
All right, so that's new construction, but a lot of the buildings in this neighborhood, even some of the last generation newer ones, are coming up on 20 years old. So if you're a seller and you're in one of those 20-year-old buildings, what do you need to know?
It's actually a great opportunity because most people aren't willing to do the work, and so you get a lot of inventory that's very average. No one really wants to be average, no one wants to buy average. So if you set yourself apart by spending money in the areas where the buyers are most interested, talk with your broker, and it usually has to do with kitchens and baths and updated closets, you're going to put yourself in a nice position to sell quickly at a higher price. Those sellers that don't want to position their home so it attracts the most interest are going to have to wait a while to sell. Or they're going to have to accommodate the price.
Sure. Dad, you mentioned doing the work, and it's funny, that's something that we always seem to come back to. It's the sellers have to do the work, the buyers do the work. Let's say I'm a millennial and I'm buying my first home in the suburbs. I think there's a pretty good chance I'm going to have to do some work. So, where do I go? Where's the opportunity for me?
I'd say one of the greatest opportunities is Arlington Heights. The average sales price there is $330,000. There's good housing stock. There's a vibrant downtown, fast train ride to the city. It gives buyers coming from the city more of a sense of being in an urban environment with that downtown. And the houses there, ironically, once you put in a little bit of work, call it $50,000 to $75,000, $80,000, buyers are seeing $50,000 to $80,000 worth of equity immediately from the get-go. So there are people buying these homes, fixing them up, and selling them right now. And whenever I see that being done, I understand that the existing inventory is inexpensive and it's affordable, and that's a good market to buy in.
So it's really interesting how everything's come full circle. Back when Thad and I were selling back in the 90s, everyone wanted a fixer-upper. You wanted to find something, do some work, and create value. Then we went through a long period of time where no one wanted to do any work. They just wanted new construction, they wanted it done. And now I think people are coming back around to saying, hey, this is a way for me to create value so that if I'm buying real estate, it's actually an investment and I can actually create some additional value to just sort of stock appreciation. And now there's great vehicles like the renovation loan that can allow people to do that, where the lending community has come out and are now providing options and opportunities. And it's exciting to see in some of these, especially markets like Arlington Heights, where there's a real opportunity to make big changes.
Yeah, I think the resources are there, the programs are there, and kind of the blueprint is there, and it's just a question, I think, a lot of times of taking that first step, but it's fun, it's fun fixing up a property.
It's rewarding.
It's on TV all the time.
Every Bravo show on TV is about fixing this house.
Yeah, they make it seem painless.
And like you said, I mean, in a market where we're not seeing a ton of appreciation, that is a really good way to build equity. So back into the city, Bucktown, Wicker Park, always one of the hottest neighborhoods in Chicago. Pricing seems to reflect that. Price was up 6.6% last year, really good performance there. Although we were seeing days on market increase, so we talked in the beginning about a little bit of a decelerating market. Seems to be an indication of that. Thad, why do you think that that market time is creeping up?
Well, I think that sellers in Bucktown who have owned for a decade or more have seen this just meteoric rise in the value of homes. Oftentimes when you're in those positions, sellers then price at tomorrow's price because they're so excited and they want to capture all of the appreciation that's happened over the last 10 years. But what is interesting with Bucktown is that there's such high demand to live there. The minute you bring your price down to a market price, it gets gobbled up quickly.
Natasha, we were talking a little bit earlier, and you had said that buyers shouldn't necessarily be fooled by rising market times. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think, some of the reasons the market times are higher is some of those properties have been sitting on and they went on at a different time. It was a different market then. So now, the market has shifted and it's important that they act if they find the right property because you might get beat out. You don't know. So, buyers are out, they're looking and it's important that you act on it.
Buyers in particular are having a hard time when all of a sudden they see a multiple offer on something that, like you said, has been on the market for 7 or 8 months. They almost don't believe it. But, we had a lot of pent-up inventory that didn't sell in the fall market, and now we're getting into a stronger market. There's a lot more interest, and as soon as someone wants it, now all of a sudden everyone wants it, and you get that effect where desirability kind of out of nowhere. But buyers shouldn't be fooled, and they shouldn't wait, because if they wait, they may easily lose or pay too much money.
So I also think some of our sellers are repositioning within the market. So they're potentially reducing their prices. And again, that's creating more activity. So you need to watch out for that.
All right, so Thad, if a seller does need to do a price adjustment, they're going to be looking at data and, we provide a CMA, of course. What are they looking at in there? What's the important information to pay attention to?
I think the most important thing for a seller to pay attention to while working with our interactive CMA is what properties are under contract and closed. Inevitably, sellers will look at homes that are yet to be under contract that are available as price guidelines. But when you're looking at pricing your home, you really want to look at the homes that are closed or pending because that's your goal. Your goal is to get your home sold for the highest amount of money. When you're looking at all of the homes that are unsold and their asking price, you have two choices. You can jump in this category and be unsold with them, or you can look at what the homes that are pending or closed priced at and use that as your guiding light. It's nice to look at what's available and the pricing that these homes are asking, but you got to remember those prices have not been achieved. So what has been achieved is clear data right on the screen, and you can look at that. And I would encourage people to pay attention much more closely to what's closed and pending than to what's available when pricing their own home.
Sure, especially as more inventory is coming into the market, which
Absolutely.
we're seeing. So price, once again, we come back to price, and it seems like it's really critical. I mean, it's always critical, of course, but even more so in this spring market. And one of the places we're seeing this play out is in your backyard, which is Glenview, Northbrook, not only where you work, but also live. And it's interesting, we look at selling price to original list price ratio and listings that experience price changes and those that don't. And we see a huge spread between homes where you have no price change, selling at something like 97, 98% of list, whereas homes with one or more price changes are selling like at 80, 85, 88% of list. So a huge spread in Glenview, and I think that just kind of like reinforces the whole pricing question.
Yeah, I think it was said earlier that it really is an inverse relationship. So typically, if your market time goes up, which would typically translate to more price reductions, you're probably going to get less for the house. So it's important to go on, really compelling price strategically.
One of the areas where you said there was a lot of inventory at the start of the quarter in Glenview in particular was $1 million to $1.3 million or $1.2 million to $1.3 million. what's happening now with that tranche?
Yeah, well, it's moving nicely now. So we've seen it just in March alone. We saw a huge decrease in the amount of inventory. In fact, 12 properties went under contract just in March, which is actually the highest we've seen in 2 years. So, back in 2015, 2016, that inventory just built up to a point where I believe we had about 23 months of inventory at one point.
So Bucktown is hot, Glenview is strong, but it's not exactly a walk in the park, right?
No, and I think we have to realize it's not a pure seller's market out there. I mean, there's still plenty of inventory, and even though there's multiple offers, sellers really have to be aware that they have to get that offer to the finish line. And it's very, very easy to get a little bit overconfident and then over-negotiate the deal. And if that deal blows out, there may not be another backup offer. And if you start from scratch, you're probably getting less money next time around.
So last but not least, it's getting warmer. Everybody's thinking about summer, thinking about loading up the wood-paneled station wagon and putting the kids and the dog in there and taking a ride over to Wisconsin or across the lake to Harbor Country. Harbor Country, it looks really strong. I mean, average price is up 5%, and closed transactions year over year, while we were seeing them down in the city and Chicagoland overall, in Southwest Michigan, they're up about 30% in the first quarter. So it seems like things are really rocking there. Thad, you know that area pretty well. What's happening?
Couple things. One, I do think that there is some shifting from asset where buyers are pulling from the stock market as it's at all-time highs, putting into a second home and starting to enjoy the gains that they achieved over the last 10 years. Secondly, what's very cool is we're starting to see buyers buy in Harbor Country and in Michigan City, Indiana, Long Beach, Indiana, that are looking at it as permanent residences. Now, because Amtrak goes between New Buffalo and Chicago twice a day, and they're looking at putting in a new train line from Michigan City, more and more people are talking about living where they love to spend their weekends year-round and coming into the city periodically. So that additional buyer pool has led to a 5% increase in values and a lot more closings. And also some scarce, desirable inventory. You're finding it, a lot of buyers are finding it hard to find exactly what they want, whether it's close proximity to the beach or it's more land further away.
Are there communities that are still kind of, maybe not undiscovered, but are still great opportunities? Like, New Buffalo or Union Pure or Lakeside might be, beyond the reach of some buyers. But if you're looking for a second home, in Southwest Michigan, are there still places you can go and get a great deal? Yeah, for sure. Sawyer is fantastic. For people that go up there, Sawyer Market in the summer is a great place for grocery shopping, but there's also Greenbush Brewery, which has some of the best barbecue. In Fresco Coffee is across the street. So a lot of people are hitting downtown Sawyer on the weekends, and so subsequently a lot of the homes in that area that are further from the lake are being snapped up, and the homes they have in Sawyer that are close to the lake are highest demand we've ever seen. The hottest price point for second home desirability is between $350 and $550, and those buyers want to be as close to the lake as possible. There are houses there and they are finding it, but they're few and far between. So when something goes on that's desirable close to the lake, it's sold quickly. The other segment is $1 million to $1.5 million. Those buyers have two requests. One is to find a larger house close to the beach, but the other, which we're finding greater trends towards, are big homes with big land that are not in walkable distance to the beach, maybe a mile, mile and a half away from the beach, in Three Oaks and areas west of the tracks where buyers can get a good piece of land, lots of privacy, and a beautiful home for between $1 million and $1.5 million. Parting shots for the remainder of spring market. I would say it's a good sign that we have so much demand for our real estate, even after last year's tax modifications. Those are a big deal. When sellers are right now saying, hey, why am I selling my home for the same amount that I paid 4 or 5 years ago? You're really not. The cost of owning that home has gone up, in some cases 15 to 20%, because of the SALT tax changes. So not being able to deduct beyond $10,000 our property taxes, our state income taxes, that's affected a lot of homes in our communities that have higher property taxes. So when buyers are able to go out there looking, they can now afford less because they don't have those deductions anymore. But the good sign of that is that we are selling a lot of homes. I thought that tax change was going to cause significantly more damage than it has. And so it's just pulled back the appreciation. So what we would have seen as appreciation in selling our homes, we're seeing as cost of home ownership paid in the form of a non-deductible tax.
I would say preparation is key, just to remember whether you're buying or selling. You know, as a seller, it's important that you get your home ready and that it wins the price and beauty contest. So talk to your agent early, get prepared. Buyers as well, you need to meet with a lender and get ready, because if you're in a multiple offer, you're going to need to be completely prepared.
You know, and I'd say I'm kind of cautiously optimistic about the rest of the year. You know, we talked a little bit about the fact that we got a little bit of a slower start, but even over the last few weeks, we've seen some really great inventory come on the market, really good inventory that we think will drive things. There's a lot of activity out there, so we are cautiously optimistic that the second, third quarter is going to be a lot stronger, and that 2019 playbook hasn't really been written yet.
Sounds good. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing, you know, how the rest of spring market plays out. And as always, make sure to get in touch with your @properties agent. Really get educated on the market. Use the resources that we have on our website. And we'll see you next time at the market.